Hey guys, what's up? It's Megan. Welcome back to my channel. Sorry I've been slacking on YouTube lately. I have just been really busy, been doing a lot of really fun things, and I have neglected my channel a little bit. I usually post once or twice a week and I've been lazy, so time to get back to it. I miss doing videos and so I'm hopping back on the horse. So anyways, my last video I talked about my manic episode from 2018. I'm gonna switch gears today and do a video about my friend that committed suicide about a decade ago, and it's going to be triggering maybe for some people, so I do want to be respectful and do a trigger warning right now that if you are very sensitive to suicide, you've had a loved one commit suicide, or talking about suicide, I highly recommend that you don't watch this video. I don't want to upset or trigger anyone, but I do feel like it's important to get my truth out there and talk about something very difficult. So my hair and my pink shirt, I'm wearing it because it really reminds me of my friend David. David was one of my best friends. I met him when I was 22 years old when I went to beauty school. He was gay and he was fabulous. He talked in a very high-pitched voice and he had hair actually just like how mine is right now. It was really blonde. A lot of times he put like pink in it. And he was just amazing. Like, he loved Britney Spears, he loved Lady Gaga. Actually, while I was getting ready to film this video, doing my makeup and my hair, I was listening to Lady Gaga and Britney Spears, just thinking about him, trying to prepare myself to tell this story. I absolutely miss him so much. He was someone that was very, very dear to me, and although I've healed from his death, it still really affects me, and I think about him all the time. And I'm a huge advocate of suicide prevention and also obviously mental health, getting help for your mental health. And looking back on everything, especially knowing everything I know now because of my mental health, it is very clear that he had an undiagnosed mental health condition. I'm not entirely sure what. I believe maybe some PTSD. I'm just gonna say this is all stuff that he told me. These aren't like facts. I don't know anything for sure, but just basing this off of what he told me. So anyways, his parents were like bikers, Harley, in kind of like a gang situation, and he's a gay man and they judged him, they didn't accept him, and eventually they booted him out of their family, and so he was homeless on the streets. He got beaten up for being gay. He was a victim of violence because he was gay, and that broke my heart. But so his story is really interesting. He was on the streets and homeless, and basically he made a really good friend that had a lot of money. His friend passed away of AIDS, and when his friend passed away, his friend left all of his money to David. And so he came into like, I think it was like $150,000 all of a sudden. And so he went from like basically homeless to coming into all this money. And we're going to hair school together. So he drove a really cute car. It was like an Audi convertible. He had a really nice place on Capitol Hill in Seattle, which is the gay capital of the Seattle area. But he had a really nice apartment with a beautiful rooftop overlooking the city. He just was living large there for a few years. And like I said, we were in hair school together and we were just like best friends. We would drink together, we would smoke weed together, we would hang out all the time. I would go to his house constantly on Capitol Hill. I would spend the night. We would cuddle and listen to Britney Spears songs, and sometimes we would cry and just talk about each other's trauma and things that we've been through in our lives. And we just had this really deep connection, this soul connection. One day in September of, I believe it must have been 2009, I believe it was, I was in school and I was sitting in class and I was waiting for him to come to class, and I texted him and I said, "Where are you?" And he said, text me back, and he said, "I'm gonna kill myself, my life is over." And of course I flipped out and I went to what is like the principal of my beauty school, and I said, David said he's gonna kill himself, like I have to leave, I have to go find him. And so she said that that was okay. And unfortunately, you know, people didn't take him seriously. He's considered dramatic and like a drama queen. So when he would talk about things that are serious, such as suicide, a lot of people really didn't take it very seriously, in my opinion. And so I drove from school to where he was staying in Linwood, and he was staying with a friend, and he answered the door, and he was in his underwear and drinking a half-gallon of vodka, and his eyes were bloodshot. And I just hugged him and I said, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? And he basically told me that, mind you, he had all this money, but he had blown through it. Like, it was slowly disappearing. And he was very attractive, and he was a victim of a scam. And so back then there was MySpace, and so someone hit him up on MySpace and says, hey, like, I have this modeling gig for you in Las Vegas. We're gonna buy you a gym membership. We're gonna fly you down here to do photo shoots and all these types of things. He did some modeling on the side. And so anyways, they scammed him and said, give us your bank account information and we will, you know, get your gym membership and all that stuff going. And so they got his information and they withdrew negative amounts of money from his account. And so he went from having $150,000 cash to negative amounts in his bank account within, like, I want to say a year. Again, all of this was so long ago. I'm just going based off of my memory. And so I'm like crying and freaking out, and I'm like, you can figure this out. We can figure this out together. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, you know, and he's telling me, like, I'm going to kill myself. Like, I already have a plan. My life is over. And I was just crying, begging him, pleading him. And he's like, you can't tell anyone what's going on. And of course, I already had told the principal of my school. So I'm flipping out, and all of a sudden the school starts calling me, and he flips out. He's like, you fucking bitch, you told on me, they know, fuck you. And so he starts like screaming and grabbing all of his stuff, and I'm like, please, no, like, please don't do this. And he's just cussing at me, and he's so pissed. And basically, I knew he was trying to leave. He had, I want to say, a rental car. I think his convertible Audi had gotten repoed or something. And so I ran out and like stood in front of his door, and I just spread my arms out like this. And I was like, you're not leaving. I'm not letting you leave. And we kind of got into a physical fight where he like grabbed me and like pushed me out of the way, and I fell to the ground, and he got in the car and reversed and just sped off. And I called 911. I was terrified. And mind you, before the principal had called me, I was crying, and he got down on his hands and knees and he looked me in the eye. And my beauty school name was Reese. Like, at our hair school, we had to come up with stage names. And so my stage name was Reese. So he always called me Reese. And he would always go, Reese, you crackhead. Because he had this like high-pitched voice. He didn't mean I was an actual crackhead, but like I'm a spaz. So he always said, Reese, you crackhead. And he got on his hands and knees, and he grabbed my hands, and he said, Reese, I love you so much. You've been an amazing friend, but like, I have to go now. And he kissed me on the forehead. And I've never seen that much pain in someone's eyes before. And even to this day, that like gives me goosebumps, because I will never forget that moment. And I was just so distraught, so upset. Like, I was just trying to do anything to convince him not to take his own life. And so, so I called 911, and they just said, sorry, there's nothing we can do. And I was like, fuck. So I drove immediately to his apartment on Capitol Hill and tried to get in the building, tried to get into his apartment, because he had told me the way that he had planned to kill himself was to take a bunch of pills and drink a bunch of alcohol and just fall asleep. And so I was concerned that he was in his apartment trying to kill himself, that's where he had driven to. So I'm like asking his neighbors, like, let me in the building. And he wasn't at the apartment. So I'm just like thinking the worst thoughts. I'm thinking he's on the Aurora Bridge, he's about to jump off the bridge. Like, I'm flipping out. And like, at the time there wasn't like internet on our phones how there is now. So I went to the Seattle library, got on MySpace, and like went to his MySpace and found like a bunch of his friends that lived on Capitol Hill, messaging all these guys that I've met through him on MySpace saying, David is gonna kill himself. I'm so scared. Like, I need help. I need to help find him. And they were all just kind of like, you know, like, we've heard this before and like there's nothing we can do. And I'm just like panicked. And I went after that back to the hair school and I told the principal what had happened. I'm like, we need to call the police. We need to find him. Like, we need to do something. And I just remember majority of the people at my hair school, the other students and the staff, were just kind of like, oh, it's just David being dramatic, and they didn't take it seriously at all. And I remember that really disturbed me, that people just kind of brushed it under the rug. It really bothered me. So anyways, a couple of days went by and I didn't sleep. I had so much anxiety, just like I couldn't relax. And at the time I was living home with my parents, and my mom and my dad and my sister knew, and I was just so on edge. And a couple of days later, he finally texted me. And mind you, I had been blowing him up, like literally probably calling him 50 times a day for like the couple days that went by since I had heard from him. And so he finally texts me and he says that he attempted suicide. He tried to do his plan of taking pills and drinking, and it didn't work. And I was just like, oh my God, thank God, thank God. I'm like, I love you. We can figure it out together. Like, we'll get through this together. Like, I'll pick you up every day to go to school together and we will make this work. And so I picked him up the next day to go to school and I gave him a hug, and I was just so relieved that he was okay. I was so relieved. And actually, I was ahead of him in hair school, so I was set to graduate before him. But we both got a job as apprentices at this salon called The Loft in Seattle, downtown Seattle. And we both worked there. But again, I had graduated before him, but we were both apprentices. So he would work and still go to school, and I was just working there. So we became friends with a lot of the girls that worked there. We became friends with this one girl, and her boyfriend was very rich, had a lot of money, and that's when I kind of got introduced to cocaine. I started doing cocaine with him and her and some of the other people that we worked with. And, you know, it was just kind of experimenting back then. I'm not saying like, hey, like it's okay to do cocaine, but, you know, we would go out drinking, and it was just like a thing that we did on the weekends. We would do cocaine. So anyways, a couple months had passed and I thought things were like getting better. So I told you in September, that's when he attempted to take his life. So that following December, a couple months later, I just remember that he called my mom and left her a voicemail telling on me to my mom. And mind you, I'm 22 years old, and told her that I was doing cocaine. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And we got into this huge argument, and I called him and bitched him out or texted him or something. And I was just like, fuck you. How dare you? You do cocaine. I do cocaine. The fact that we're adults and you're calling my mom and telling my mom that I'm doing cocaine on me is ridiculous. And I said some fucked up shit, like I'm the only person that's been there for you. I'm the only person that cares about you, that took what you were going through back in September seriously, and you're an asshole, and like I don't want to be your friend anymore. So we ended things on terrible terms. And 2 months later, we didn't talk for 2 months, and 2 months later in February of what would have been, I guess, 2010, I went to work at the salon downtown Seattle, and mind you, he had gotten fired from there, so he was no longer working there. I don't know if he got fired or the owners told him they no longer have, you know, the money to pay him to work there. So he was no longer working there, but I still was, and we were supposed to have a work meeting in the morning. And the two guys that own this salon downtown Seattle, they were a gay married couple, and we're about to start this meeting, and I'm sitting there with my notepad and my paper. We're about to do like a product class and learn about new products, and I'm ready to take notes, and the owner stands up in front of all of us that are working and says, I have some terrible news. And I just remember it like it was yesterday, him saying, David's gone. They found his body, and instantly, like I keeled over. I started hyperventilating. I couldn't breathe. I was hysterical. Like I felt like I had been stabbed in the stomach. And I remember I had to leave work that day. I couldn't work. And one of my really good friends that I worked with, we both lived up north and took the bus to work. So her and I left, and I was shaking, and I called Gene Juarez, the hair school we went to talk to the principal, to be like, what happened? Where is he? Like, you know, how did he do it? And they wouldn't tell me. They wouldn't release the information. And so, ironically, shortly after that, I met my husband for the very first time at a bar. And so, once I started dating my husband, I just kind of stuffed my feelings of losing my friend under the rug and kind of put all my energy and my attention into this guy that I had just met that I really liked, and kind of just like unknowingly stuffed everything down and tried to act like I was okay. But really, I needed to get help back then. I needed desperately to receive therapy, trauma therapy, because that his death affected me severely, because I felt like it was my fault. I felt like, had we not gotten into that fight in December and I didn't say all those things, that he would be alive still, because I felt as though in some way back in September when he attempted and failed that I kind of saved him. Because I mean, I didn't save him, but you know what I mean? Like, I just felt like I was there for him. He knew I loved him. He knew I cared for him. And he didn't go through with it, or it didn't work, or whatever. So I felt like, because when he actually did commit suicide, I wasn't there for him. I felt like it was my fault. So I really struggled with that for years. And it's interesting because when I became really manic in 2017, all these flashbacks of back then came up, and when I would write my rants on social media, I would write all about him and express my feelings about how much I loved him and missed him and how nobody cared, because it made me so angry back then, because I remember either Facebook had just come out or on MySpace, I can't remember, but I just remember all these people that I specifically remember being fake and calling him a drama queen and not taking it seriously that he was suicidal, writing on social media on his page, "Rest in peace, you were such a good person, I cared about you so," and it's like, are you fucking kidding me? I still, to this day, that disgusts me. Like, I just think that when someone dies and passes away, then you care. I think you should be there for someone when they're alive and suffering and asking for help, not when it's too late, write some fake ass bullshit post on their page. But hey, that's just me. As we can see, I'm getting a little fired up about it because it still bothers me to this day. But anyways, so he actually committed suicide in February of 2010, and fast forward to June of 2010, I had stopped working downtown Seattle. I got a job at a salon closer to my house, and I remember I was sitting in the break room because I was new and I didn't have a full clientele in the city where I was newly working, so I had a lot of downtime in the break room waiting for walk-ins and stuff like that in the salon. And I remember all the girls were in there eating their lunch, and I'm new, so I don't really know the girls, so I'm just kind of eavesdropping on their conversation, not on purpose, but I'm just sitting here listening. And they're kind of going back and forth, and one girl goes, I specifically remember her saying something like, "Ugh, remember when that disgusting asshole like slit his wrists in your sister's bathtub? Ugh, what was his name? David?" And again, I felt like I got stabbed in the stomach. I instantly keel over, start hyperventilating, crying, hysterically freaking out, and everyone's looking at me like, what the fuck? They had no idea that he was like my best friend, and that I had no idea how he actually committed suicide. I had told myself for those months that I didn't know. I had just kind of put my mind to rest that he took pills, drank, and fell asleep. But to find out in a way where I'm so caught off guard, I'm so vulnerable, to just have it blurted out to me when I'm not prepared at all, emotionally or mentally, that he killed himself in the most disgusting, grotesque way, it was one of the most traumatizing things I've ever been through in my entire life. And so found out that the way that he took his own life is that he ended up staying, he didn't have a place to live, so he was staying with one of his friends that he met through beauty school. He was living with her and her husband, and one night he said, "I'm gonna take a bath," and he locked the door and he slit his wrists in her bathtub and bled out, and her and her husband were knocking on the door trying to get in there, and he wouldn't answer, and so they broke the door down and found him. And it's just terrible, and it just absolutely breaks my heart. And my heart breaks for her and her husband that had to see that. And then someone told me that the paramedics came and said that they're going to charge the girl and her husband 10 grand to have them clean the blood. And it's just like, it's so terrible what happened, and it absolutely breaks my heart. I miss David so much every single day, and I blamed myself for so long that I could have prevented this, that it was my fault. But the truth of the matter is, it wasn't my fault. He was in immense amount of pain and he didn't know what to do with it. And my guess is, looking back, that he had a severe mental illness and didn't receive the proper treatment that he needed. And I miss him so much. And every time I hear Lady Gaga or Britney Spears, I think of him, and I just think it's cool that like I have his hairstyle now, because this is how his hair was. So it's just, you know, I get God shots all the time where I'll be driving on the freeway and I'll see the little Audi convertible he used to drive, or a song will come on. And, you know, now luckily I don't have those trauma memories anymore. I don't think about him dying. I remember the good memories, and that means that I've healed and that I'm in a better place. But it took me a really long time to get there. And like I said, I'm 32, almost 33 now. At the time, I was 22, almost 23, or wait, I had just turned 23. I never got help for it right away, and I regret that. And my biggest advice for anyone that's going through anything like that is to get therapy, to get help for it, because those feelings don't go away. You can try to stuff it, you can try to brush it under the rug, you can try to drink your way through it, smoke your way through it, but those feelings will be there for the rest of your life until you address it. And unfortunately, I didn't address it for years and years, and now looking back, I can see that a lot of my substance abuse issues with alcohol and smoking weed were to numb that situation, because it was so painful for me, and I had so much self-hatred and so much just loathe for myself that I could have saved his life, or I could have done something different. But I know better now, and again, I miss him so much. I think about him all the time. It's all good memories now. I have so much compassion and empathy for him, because for so long I was so angry at him. I would say, what a selfish asshole. How could he fucking do that to his friend? How could he do that to everyone that loves him? He's an asshole. But now what I've gone through with my mental health issues, I realize he's not an asshole at all. He was in so much pain, so much turmoil, so much depression, that he saw no escape, and he didn't have the kind of support that I have, which is, I'm so lucky to have it with my husband and my parents and my friends. And you know, I just think that in this world, we shouldn't give up on people, and we should never throw in the towel on someone just because they're going through a terrible time. We're all people, we're all humans, we all have a heart, we all have people out there that love us, that care about us, and we deserve to be loved unconditionally. And that is the biggest takeaway I hope anyone that watches this video gets out of this video, is to never give up on people, to love people unconditionally, to take it seriously. If someone is saying that they have suicidal ideation or a plan to commit suicide, it's not a joke. It's not something to take lightly. It means you need to get help immediately. And I just wanted to make this video to remember my friend, and to say that he was an amazing person. He had an amazing soul. And David, I know that you're with me. I know that you're an angel in my life, and I miss you so much. And oh, I'm gonna get sad. I'm gonna get choked up. I miss him so much. And he was such a good person. And you know, I just wish he didn't have all the problems that he had. And I wish that he knew how much I loved him, and I think he did. I think he knew how much I loved him. So, anyways, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you thought it was beneficial or helpful or informative. And I will see you in my next video. I'll try to keep the next video maybe a little bit lighter. So anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.